No more husbands. Every man in the village cheated African tales. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you believed about love, loyalty, and family was a lie. That the man you shared your life with, your husband, your protector, was part of something so dark, so horrifying, that the truth itself could shatter your soul. What would you do? Would you pretend not to see? Or would you dare to uncover the secret that could change everything? In the village of Omga, love was sacred. The women believed their husbands were different, faithful, honorable, the kind of men who would never betray them. They laughed at tales of unfaithful men in other villages, secure in the belief that their marriages were built on unbreakable trust. The elders often spoke of loyalty, warning that a man who strayed from his wife would bring bad luck to his family. But Naima, a sharp and observant woman, saw things others did not. She had been married to Jafari for 10 years. He was perfect, too perfect. Never forgetting a special date, never coming home late, never raising his voice. He was steady, predictable. But love, Naima thought, was supposed to have passion, surprise, even imperfection. And then, she noticed something else. Not just in Jafari, but in all the men. They spoke the same way, laughed the same way, left at the same time, returned at the same time. Their love, their devotion, it was identical. Too identical. It wasn't love. It was a pattern. A secret. One evening, as the men returned from a hunting trip, carrying their catch and boasting of their bravery, Naima searched their faces. They smiled at their wives, but their eyes were empty. Every single one of them. A chill ran down her spine. Something was wrong. That night, a traveler arrived in the village, a man named Sefiu, old and wise, with eyes that seemed to see everything. The women whispered about him, but the men stood stiff, their jaws tight. Jafari gripped Naima's wrist, his voice urgent. Stay away from him. But it was Sefiu who found her first. Your men are lying to you, he said, his voice calm. Every single one of them. Naima laughed. Impossible. The men of Onga were not like that. But Sefiu didn't argue. He only looked at her, waiting for her to see what had always been there. The next morning, she did. She watched. She listened. She paid attention to every word, every step, every moment. And her heart sank. Everything she had believed was a lie. That night, under the cover of darkness, Naima and her friend Amina followed the men into the forest. Their bare feet moved silently across the damp earth. The wind carried distant chants, deep and rhythmic, warning of something unnatural ahead. Amina stepped on a dry branch, the crack split the silence. They froze. But the whispers ahead continued, undisturbed. A glow seeped through the twisted roots of an ancient tree. Naima brushed aside thick vines, revealing a stone opening beneath the roots. A staircase spiraled downward, swallowed by darkness. A sickening scent curled through the air, burnt herbs, sweat, and something metallic. Something wrong. There may be no way back, Amina whispered. Naima's jaw tightened. Then we go forward. The cavern stretched wide beneath the earth, its walls carved with ancient symbols. Blue torch flames flickered, casting eerie shadows on the figures below. The men of Omga, husbands, fathers, elders, knelt in a circle, wooden chalices in hand, heads bowed before a massive stone altar draped in crimson cloth. Naima's breath caught. This wasn't just unfaithfulness. This was something far worse. A towering figure stood at the altar, his face hidden behind a carved wooden mask. He raised his arms, and the chamber fell silent. One by one, the men lifted their chalices and drank. Their bodies convulsed, their eyes rolling back as the liquid took hold. Some laughed. Some wept. Some trembled violently. The masked leader's voice echoed through the cavern. We are the Brotherhood. The keepers of the old ways. Our bond is unbreakable. Our desires unchained. The men chanted in unison, their voices merging into a single, inhuman sound. And then Naima saw them, the captives. Women, chained, their wrists bruised, their dresses torn. These were not the wives of hunger. These were strangers. Stolen. Amina's hand flew to her mouth. The men they loved, the men they trusted, had done this. Naima's stomach twisted. The final, terrible truth crashed down upon her. This wasn't about infidelity. This was a crime against humanity. They needed to live. Now. The aftermath. The elders had known. For generations, they had protected the Brotherhood, not the women. Each morning, before the sun rose, the men drank a sacred potion, one that wiped away their memories, erasing the horrors of the night before. By day, they were loving husbands and fathers. By night, they were something else. None of them remembered. Not even Jafari. And if they did, the truth would kill them. But could the women continue living in this lie? Naima and the women of Onga gathered in the village square, their voices rising with fury. The men stood before them, confused, lost. Jafari stepped forward, his face searching hers. What are you talking about? He knew nothing. None of them did. Naima's anger turned cold. Horror filled her veins. If they remembered, their minds would shatter. The potion didn't just erase, it protected them from the unbearable weight of their own sins. But the women had a choice to make. The final reckoning. That night, the women painted their faces with sacred symbols, torches in one hand, blades in the other. The Brotherhood had ruled for too long. The temple would fall. The battle was fierce. Steel clashed, war cries echoed, and blood stained the earth. But inside the temple, the elder Babu only smiled. You think ending me will save you, he laughed. The potion is a curse woven into their blood. If it stops, they will awaken. But at what cost? Naima's grip tightened. Then let the flames decide. The fire roared. The potion burned. The spell was broken. And the men screamed. Memories crashed into them like a violent storm. Some fell to their knees, sobbing at the feet of their wives, begging for forgiveness. Others ran into the wilderness, unable to bear the shame. A few turned to violence, blaming the women for tearing away the veil that had kept them safe. The village was no longer a home. It was a battlefield of broken souls. As dawn broke over the ruins of the temple, the women stood together. Some mourned what they had lost. Others embraced what they had gained. The elders, once the pillars of Onga, sat in silence, watching their world collapse. The Brotherhood was no more. And the men who remained would have to learn to live with the truth. No more potions. No more deception. Only the weight of their choices. Naima turned away, walking alongside Amina. This is not the end, Amina whispered. Naima nodded. No. This is the beginning.